I try my hand at kite surfing in the world-renowned Langebaan Lagoon, but soon realize it's better left to the experts. I do, however, find a friend in Ian at the Two Oceans Aquarium as we descend into the world of the ragged-toothed sharks. I venture 12 miles out to sea and soon wish that I hadn't when my body takes strain as the yellowtails strike one after the other. I am Ashley Dowds, and this is my Africa, my home. I dig deep into the past to make sense of the present. I explore the natural environment to find the driving force behind my continent's attraction. But it hides another face, an elusive side, filled with excitement and packed with adventure.
This is DoxNM, otherwise known as the white sand mussel. Very nice to find one of these on the beach because it's a sure sign of a healthy environment.
And Langebaan, that is situated 135 kilometers northwest of Cape Town, on the southern tip of South Africa, was formed by the rising and falling of sea levels during prehistoric times, unlike most lagoons, which form where freshwater rivers enter the sea. As a result, Langebaan Lagoon is a purely saltwater lagoon.
This whole lagoon area and the salt marshes that run along them is a very important destination for migratory birds coming from the north. This area supports about 500 different species of creatures that they feed on.
But I had other things on my mind when I decided to pay this area a visit. Things that require a little more energy than watching pelicans and flamingos.
So there's no waves, it's like a big swimming pool. So it's quite handy for people to learn. It can be a bit difficult when you've got waves pouring over you and you're learning how to kite surf. It's nice.
The moment of truth arrives, and I'm going to make sure that I don't land up with egg on my face or sand in my eyes. Hopefully not. Okay! Bit of a workout. I want you to warm up. It is a bit of a warm up, eh?
That's it. Okay, so I want you to have a feel quickly, right? So, without taking your foot off.
Langebaan Lagoon is world famous as a kite surfing venue. Thought I'd give it a try as well, and I was lucky to get John as my mentor. But it takes more time to master the art of kite surfing than what I had available.
Okay, so I've been doing this for a couple of hours now, and I've just realized what skill it takes to actually be able to get up onto that board and go onto the water. You need a whole lot of training on the beach before you can do that, and more. I mean, this romantic notion of getting on a board on day one seems to be impossible. Yes. That's why John is going to show me how to do it.
Yes.
Well, the South African West Coast is an extremely popular destination for those who wish to get rid of the tensions of corporate life. The West Coast National Park allows for an easy drive where eland and other plains game were reintroduced several years ago. But what have always intrigued me are the people who have been living here for generations, people who are fully dependent for their survival on the Atlantic Ocean.
This is Saldana Bay. It's a natural bay on the western peninsula of the Cape, and it's where marine life has changed since a seawall was put in place to service the iron ore industry.
When a harbour for iron ore export was built here, no one could foresee that it would spawn another industry.
That industry is mussel farming.
A few decades ago, the Mediterranean mussels arrived in South Africa on the hulls of large ships. It became popular for aquaculture, a fast grower, and they are extremely tasty.
You see those things, yeah?
Yeah, the ridges in the
Yes.
shell, yeah.
For the West Coast people, the local black mussels that look similar to the Mediterranean variety are no strangers. Both species are filter feeders, and they require very little attention during few months after nets were seeded with small mussels and hung into the water to allow them to grow at their own leisure. It is a fairly labor-intensive industry, but for most of the people of this area, it serves a dual purpose. It affords them time to spend on their beloved sea, and they earn a living. Mussel farming is still in its child's shoes on the west coast, compared to a centuries-old fishing tradition that is unique to this region.
Veldrift is the heart of Bokkum's country. Bokkum's is a mullet that's caught in the river here. It's tossed in brine for a couple of days, and then it's dried out in the open air. It's a local delicacy.
Well, I'm told that the fish is not running, but two of the Bokkum fishers insist on taking me out to, as they said, see for myself what an honest day's work is about. I think they are just looking for an excuse to be out on the sea, but then I'm not opposed to spending time on the ocean myself. Deka and X are using a long, fine net that is weighted at the bottom and kept upright in the water by floats. Usually they catch hundreds of kilograms of mullet in one throw, as they call it.
Mullet's an algae feeder, which means that we can't go fishing with our fishing rods here. We've got to use nets. They won't take a hook.
Usually seabirds become extremely active where there is fish, but it doesn't look as if mullet is in the bay today, and after a few minutes we haul in the net.
So this is a gill net. They swim into the net and they get stuck.
One fish is all we caught, but a visit to RPX's Bokkum factory takes me right back into times long past.
RP, this is not completely unique. I mean, the Portuguese eat this kind of thing. It's eaten in North America, that sort of thing. But who eats it in South Africa? Where does this go?
Want die meeste van die mense wat dit wil eet is mense op ons plaaswerkers. En natuurlik die ou visse maar ek myself eet, dis lief om droog word, lekker droog is. Maar meeste van die mense is op die plase wat hom eet. En ek het gehoor hier is die mense gewerk met die op die vrugteplase. En hulle sweet bly baie. Maar natuurlik oor by die sout wat jy in hom het.
I believe the taste for Bokkums is an acquired one.
Well, here goes. Bokkums. This has been filleted and it's made into little strips without bones. Very strong flavour. They like drying meat in South Africa. They dry beef, they dry game. This time it's fish. Very nice with an apricot jam, homemade bread and a beer.
And I find the beer and a soulmate in Dennis Foster, who shares my outlook on life a little further down Bokkum Lane, as we sit back and had an easy conversation while watching the Berg River where nothing much was happening. In fact, feeding some pelicans is the highlight of the day as the two birds compete for a fresh mullet. Man, this is West Coast life at its best. Commercial fishing has taken its toll, and I decided to visit a place where in-depth research is combined with tourism to assure the survival of several Western Cape species.
So, I believe this is a really good dive spot, huh?
It's probably the best in Cape Town.
You promised me good viz.
Every time. And warm water.
Fantastic.
And guaranteed shark signs.
What are those creatures? I'm scared.
No, you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be scared.
I'm one of the last people to dive in the predator tank at the Two Oceans Aquarium in Cape Town. This massive tank will be rebuilt and upgraded soon, and after that, no sport diving will be allowed with the ragged-toothed sharks and their fellow inhabitants anymore. I'm honoured. Two Oceans is not only another aquarium, but they play a decisive role in assisting ocean and marine life researchers.
In the kelp forest is stuff that's indigenous to the Cape Town area, so it's the kind of fish that we would see when we go diving off the shoreline here. The predator tank is a little bit warmer fish and it's from both oceans. So you'll see some of the fish here, but the likes of the turtle and there's a little kingfish in there, they prefer the warm water. So they're sort of from Durban upwards.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm just seeing what's swimming underneath here. That's the nice thing about it. You can see what's coming. We have checked there. Everything's okay.
I checked yours. I didn't check mine.
The dark shape floating past underneath us shred my nerves tatters. I find the clean water somewhat unnerving. Those sharks down there are big. Probably the most dangerous part of the dive is getting into the water. The sharks are fed from the top, and people entering the tank can easily be mistaken for food. But then, once in the water, I enjoy the mild temperature and excellent visibility. I'm going to love this one. A curious grunter approaches us, and Ian points out several species that he told me to watch out for. I've looked at pictures of many of them, but seeing them cruising around in real life emphasizes their true beauty. It is the first time that I see a dusky cob alive, a species that can grow to 2 meters, weigh in at up to 75 kilograms, and reach a ripe old age of 42 years. Sadly, many of these giants have disappeared due to overfishing, and photographs of smiling anglers with enormous cobs speak of a time when no one thought that they might disappear one day. Digging in the sand at the bottom of the tank, we find some teeth that were shed by the ragged-toothed sharks, or sand tigers as they are also known. Sharks replace their teeth on an ongoing basis. This one my dive master indicates. I can keep it as a souvenir, a much prized present from the Two Oceans Aquarium. The ragged-toothed sharks become more relaxed with our presence in the tank, and they slowly, almost unnoticed, close in on us. Unlike at Alawal Shoal in the subtropical waters of the KwaZulu-Natal coast further north, they've been known to attack people in these colder areas, and it's time for us to get out of the tank. I have no intention of getting involved in a skirmish with them. These guys are massive. It is believed that ragged-toothed sharks, or sand tigers, also have been responsible for at least some deaths among poachers of a big snail that is found in the Western Cape waters.
This part of the coastline used to be a big attraction to people that came to dive for abalone. But because of the management structures and policing in this area, abalone has all but disappeared.
The wild abalone industry is now a shadow of what it used to be, and the future of this species as a delicacy depends mainly on commercial farming or aquaculture. It was believed that abalone farming was impossible due to the fact that the natural factors triggered spawning remained a mystery. Then a breakthrough came when chemically induced spawning was mastered a few decades ago.
So these are our broodstock. They all come from the wild. They are from Walker Bay specifically, and we breed them, we spawn them every 2 weeks. We spawn one group every 2 weeks. One female will give us typically about 4 or 5 million eggs. Yeah. And we use about 10 to 20 mils of sperm to fertilize that. Out of the 36 million eggs that we get every 2 weeks, we're lucky if we get about 100,000 6-month-old sprat out of that at the end of 6 months. So I'm going to actually show you these ones over here.
So these are the little guys.
Yep. These are about 2.5 months old. And you can see them all settled on these plates, and they are grazing this algae. And they'll be on these plates in a total for about 3 months.
The requirements of these small snails to survive in the wild have been carefully recreated, or else they just won't survive. And Sally takes me to the next step, where the juveniles now start taking on the shape and looks of an abalone.
So why the cone?
We give them the cones because at this point they start trying to hide away from the sunlight. And in the wild this would correspond to when they're hiding under the rocks and they're moving into the kelp beds.
Oh, right. And they're all blue?
They're all blue. That is a side effect of the feed that we give them. It's the protein in the food makes them go blue. So it's a nice sign for us that we can see that they're weaning, that they're digesting the new diet.
My interest in the abalone farm is not so much about the commercial value of these snails, but to find a possible solution to protect the abalone species. For many years, before slack policing saw an immense increase in poaching, these snails attracted thousands of people that took out a limited amount for personal use. Reseeding in places where they've disappeared is becoming more of an option as poaching pressure on the species increases.
So there is a chance of making a profit and contributing to the reseeding project.
Yep, there's definitely no reason why the two can't go hand in hand. They're quite compatible. One of the major stumbling blocks is getting all the parties around the table, getting government, local communities, farmers, each with their own conflicting interests and needs. Getting everybody around the table and talking about it and actually making it happen is going to be the big stumbling block.
Several scientists agree that should abalone become extinct, it can have far-reaching consequences that may see the big species that regularly migrate to these waters eventually staying away. And then I hear on the grapevine rumours of massive shoals of fish that are descending upon the famous Abalone banks, offshore from Saldana Bay, a small holiday town. My previous efforts at fishing here were disastrous, leaving me red-faced and with my dreams of becoming a world-class angler shattered to pieces.
Yes. So many people would think I'm crazy to do this, but it's 4:30 in the morning. I find myself here at the harbour at Saldana Bay, thinking that I'm early, but many other people are here at the same time, 4:30 in the morning. It's a daily occurrence for lots of these people. They're commercial fishermen. They're going out on their ski boats to go and fish today. We had to get up about 2 hours earlier to be here. Nevertheless, I'm back. Saldana Bay, we're going fishing. We didn't have much luck last time. Let's hope we get us some yellowtail.
The yellowtail are running thick on the banks that are situated just off Cape Agulhas, or the Point of Needles. During the cold winter months, the fish move away and are scarce, but summer's warm weather heats up the sea currents and they rejoice in the mild weather. Our fishing grounds is on the Agulhas Bank, a broad, shallow part of the southern African continental shelf, which extends up to 250 kilometers south of Cape Agulhas before falling steeply to the abyssal plain. 12-mile bank lies 19 nautical miles south of Saldana Bay, and this is the summertime hunting grounds of yellowtail. Tens of small fishing vessels fight for space over a shoal of fish that are concentrated over 12-mile bank. Commercial fishermen show their worth as they land one after the other, kicking yellowtail.
Getting a bite.
The anglers on the Awesome, our ski boat, however, goes through a very dry spell.
Oh, I think there's a tiny nibble. It's probably something small at the end. Could be nothing. I don't know what's happening here. Nothing's happening at the end of my line.
I'm beginning to wonder whether we might be using the wrong bait, or maybe I'm a fishing bad luck charm. But then one of my fellow anglers breaks the ice. Among all the yellowtails swimming around below us, he catches a very sought-after fish.
What's it going to be? Keelback. The Cape salmon, caught by the luckiest guy on the boat. Owen.
Cape salmon, or keelback, the first one in the bin. But then a strong pluck on my line indicates that I'm on. Now the fun starts.
He's still on. He's still on. Ah. You think this is yellowtail, guys?
But I'm ignored by everyone.
I hope he's still there.
The anglers on the Awesome each have a kicking yellowtail on the end of their lines.
It was interesting catching this when it finally took the bait, because as you say, it goes for a while.
Yeah.
And you just let it.
There's some color in the water.
Some color coming.
Keep it on that side.
But then I'm dealt a bad blow.
Oh,
Determined to save face, I take on the yellowtail with new vehemence. But landing these zesty fighters of the deep practices muscles that I did not know I had.
sizable guy. But it's just running, man. Come on, come on, come on. To kind of tire him out, I guess, huh?
Yellowtails are predators and extremely fast and strong swimmers. They can reach a mind-blowing speed of 45 kilometers an hour, and for a fish, that's impressive.
Hey. Perfect. Yes! I am the supreme hunter.
Perfect. You ready to go again?
That was fantastic. I tell you, it's quite a fight, yellowtail. They say it's very similar to tuna. Left arm of mine is killing me, but it's an amazing fight. Really good.
And then I get to the stage where I would prefer the fish stop taking the bait.
This is a sizable one again. Also trying to run. My left hand's never going to be the same again. Wow, wow, wow. Cannot believe the kind of muscle that these things have. I cannot imagine, well, I can imagine slightly the run on a marlin, which they do catch just off the shipping lanes out here. This one's trying to run under the boat again. Have I? Okay. All right, there we go.
You can come to this side, I'll go to that side.
Whoop. Should I come out to the back here?
I never thought that the news of approaching bad weather could be so welcome.
We're going to try and catch as much as we can now, because apparently in about 3 hours' time there's a storm coming. I don't know how these guys do it all day, actually. I mean, there's some guys there, commercial fishermen with a hand line. Here we are with a fishing rod. 3 fish and I'm finished. I'm not fresh anymore.
Well, the Agulhas Banks has smiled upon us, and maybe next year I may decide to try my luck for marlin.
So here's the catch of the day. Yellowtail. And I was a little bit worried about fish stocks, actually, and someone said to me on the side just now, you're allowed 10. There's a limit of 10 per person out there. So I'm not quite there, but I got 4 decent ones. I'm going to have to find some good friends to give them away to.
A few weeks on the road, covering a distance of just more than 400 kilometers, I've met people who are all carving a life out of the oceans. People such as Dacre, always happy to be at sea. Arpi, that keeps the rich culture of the South African West Coast people alive with his bokom or dried mullet fishery. And Ian, the crazy Scotsman who took me into a marine tank at the Two Oceans Aquarium to meet some fierce-looking fish close up. Before I experienced the ingenuity of spawning and raising abalone. This southern tip of Africa is one of the very few places where man and the natural marine environment still coexist in harmony.